The invitation arrived just before dusk in black parchment with crimson ink, a single wax seal bearing the imperial crest. Evren read the note without expression. Your presence is requested at tonight's banquet. Formal dress required, do not be late. There is no name or hint of tone, just a command to dress up as courtesy. He dressed slowly. The robe laid out for him was darker than usual, deep navy with silver embroidery along the sleeves. The fabric was heavier, meant for appearance more than comfort. It draped like authority. He wore it anyway. The guards outside his door gave him the usual nod, neither friendly nor hostile. They didn't escort him this time, just watched him walk. The banquet hall was already alive with music and laughter when he entered. Candlelight poured from crystal chandeliers. Dozens of nobles stood in clusters, gossiping behind jeweled fans, sipping from silver goblets, dressed like kings in their own heads. And then silence. It spread like a wave as heads turned. One by one, voices dropped, wine paused mid-sip, and eyes narrowed. Prince Evren Aurelian had arrived. He didn't blink. He walked with measured steps, slow and steady, until he reached the long raised table at the front of the room, the high table where the emperor and his most favored guests sat. His feet stopped. There, in the center, Kael sat already. Back straight, hands folded. Dressed not in robes this time, but in a high-collared black coat, simple but sharp, regal in its restraint. Kael's eyes found him instantly. Then, with a single motion, Kael gestured to the empty chair beside him. Evren stared at it. One seat at Kael's right hand. He heard the whispers before he even moved. He's sitting beside the emperor? That's madness. Is this a message? Evren climbed the steps to the platform, never breaking eye contact with Kael. When he reached the chair, he paused for just one breath too long. Then he sat. Kael didn't speak, just poured him a glass of wine and slid it across. Evren didn't touch it. Instead, he leaned slightly toward Kael and said, low enough for only him to hear, "You're enjoying this." Kael didn't look at him. Immensely. Evren smiled, calm, controlled, and sharper than glass. Let the court watch. Let them wonder. If Kael wanted to make a spectacle, then Evren would make it unforgettable. The food was rich, the wine flowed, and the music never stopped, but none of it was for pleasure. This wasn't a banquet. It was a battlefield dressed in velvet. Evren sat straight, his goblet untouched, his plate mostly full. He had no interest in the food or the wine, only the mouths that spoke around him. And they spoke plenty. "Your Highness," said a merchant lord from the far coast, seated a few chairs down, "I hear your people once believed lions were sacred. Is that why your armies died so proudly, or just slowly?" Laughter rippled across the table. Evren turned to him calmly. "You're mistaken. We never saw lions as sacred, but we did teach them not to bow to jackals." The laughter stopped. Kael's wine glass clicked softly against the table. The merchant smiled thinly. "Ah, so you remember things. That's admirable." "I remember everything," Evren said without blinking. "Especially the names of men who mistake cruelty for cleverness." Another noble woman with rings stacked to her knuckles leaned in. "We're all so curious. What is it like, losing a kingdom? I imagine it makes you reflective." Evren tilted his head. "It does. I reflect often on how quickly power slips through hands too soft to grip it. I imagine that keeps you up at night. Kael turned slightly toward him then, as if not to miss a word. The woman didn't respond. Her smile dropped. Evren smiled wider. One by one, they tried. They asked about the fall of Virelia, about the execution of his generals, about the palace that burned and the temple that fell, and the long march in chains. He answered all of it, calmly, precisely, every word like a blade disguised as charm. Kael watched it all in silence, not intervening or stopping it, just watching. Once their eyes met again quietly across the rim of a wine glass. Evren didn't smile. Kael did. For the first time since Evren arrived, the court began to wonder if this wasn't a mistake at all. If maybe Kael knew exactly what he was doing,